This video discusses real criminal cases involving minors in an educational and documentary context. It contains descriptions of violence and may be disturbing to some viewers. All individuals charged but not yet convicted are presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. Bellevue, Idaho; Medicine Hat, Alberta; Carroll County, Georgia; 3 quiet communities, 3 families destroyed, and 3 teenage girls who became the focus of investigations that raised painful questions about motive, influence, and the law. Each case forces us to ask, how does someone so young end up accused of tearing a family apart? Sarah Johnson, Bellevue, Idaho, 2003. On the morning of September 2, 2003, a 16-year-old walked barefoot and in a bathrobe to a neighbor's house, distraught and insisting that something terrible had happened inside her home. When neighbors responded, they found Alan and Diane Johnson dead, both shot inside their house near Haley. Their daughter, Sarah Johnson, was the only person still alive in the residence. Bellevue sits in the Wood River Valley, surrounded by the Sawtooth Mountains and wide open range, a place where high school games draw the crowd and families often remain for generations. Outwardly, the Johnsons fit that small-town mold. Alan worked in town, Diane ran the household. Yet behind the closed door, tensions had escalated. Sarah had been dating a 19-year-old undocumented immigrant, Bruno Santos, and her parents strongly opposed the relationship. Alan reportedly threatened to report Santos to immigration authorities and pursue legal action over the age gap with his minor daughter. For Santos, those threats could mean deportation, criminal charges, and prison. For Sarah, her father's warnings targeted the person she said she could not be without. Prosecutors say that pressure culminated in violence that September morning. According to investigators, Sarah went to a guest house on the property and retrieved a .264 caliber Winchester Model 70 bolt-action rifle that a tenant kept there. Returning to the main house, Diane was shot in the head while she lay in bed. Moments later, when Alan emerged from a shower, he was shot twice in the chest. Both parents died within minutes. Sarah then left through a sliding glass door and ran to a neighbor's home, presenting herself as someone who had stumbled upon the scene. But forensic evidence painted a different picture. Authorities recovered a discarded bathrobe and a latex glove that contained DNA from both parents and from Sarah. A matching leather glove in Sarah's bedroom tested positive for gunshot residue. Those findings formed core pieces of the prosecution's case. Sarah was arrested in October 2003. Because of intense local publicity, her trial was moved to Ada County. On March 16, 2005, a jury there found her guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. She received 2 consecutive fixed life sentences plus a 15-year firearm enhancement, a sentence with no possibility of parole under Idaho law. Over the following years, Sarah's legal team mounted an array of appeals and post-conviction petitions. They alleged ineffective assistance of counsel, requested new DNA testing on evidence, and later relied on arguments stemming from Miller v. Alabama about whether mandatory life without parole sentences for juveniles are constitutional. Courts denied those requests. The Idaho Supreme Court affirmed her conviction in 2008, and subsequent petitions were dismissed. A federal habeas petition also failed. As of 2025, Sarah Johnson, inmate number 77613, remains imprisoned at Pocatello Women's Correctional Center. She continues to assert her innocence and has now spent over 20 years behind bars. Across the border in Canada, another case involving a young girl and an older boyfriend produced shocking violence and a markedly different legal outcome. Jasmine Richardson, Medicine Hat, Alberta, 2006. On the evening of April 22, 2006, 12-year-old Jasmine Richardson unlocked her family's front door and allowed her 23-year-old boyfriend to enter. By the following morning, Mark and Deborah Richardson and their younger child had been killed. The horrific scene was discovered the next afternoon by a neighborhood boy who had come for a playdate, and his call brought police to the home. Jasmine was described as a quiet preteen who had become involved in online goth communities. Through a mutual friend she met Jeremy Allen Staney, who, according to many accounts, adopted an extreme online persona and claimed to be centuries old. When Mark and Deborah learned of their daughter's relationship with an adult, they grounded Jasmine and forbade her from seeing him, a parental response that prosecutors say triggered what came next. On April 22, Staney entered the home. Testimony says he attacked Deborah in the basement with a knife, then Mark. Accounts vary regarding the younger child's death. Jasmine told police Staney instructed her to do it, whereas Staney later claimed she acted on her own. Investigators also recovered a stick figure drawing from Jasmine's school locker that depicted violent acts, evidence prosecutors used to argue premeditation. Because Jasmine was a minor, she was tried under Canada's Youth Criminal Justice Act and publicly identified only as Jr. In 2007 she was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder, the youngest person in Canadian history to be convicted on multiple counts of that severity. However, Canada's youth justice framework limited the punishment. The maximum sentence was essentially 10 years, split among custody, psychiatric hospitalization, and supervised community release. Staney, tried as an adult, was convicted in December 2008 and received 3 concurrent life sentences with no parole possibility for 25 years. Casey Lancaster, who was 19 at the time and later charged as an accessory after the fact, completed her sentence. Jasmine served the youth-imposed sentence, finishing on May 6, 2016, and received an absolute discharge the same year. Reports indicate she later attended Mount Royal University in Calgary and now lives under a publication ban that protects her identity. The case remains controversial. A decade behind bars for 3 deaths provokes debate about rehabilitation, public safety, and the limits of juvenile sentencing. The final case brings us to a more recent example where social media and digital footprints played a central role in a murder investigation. Sarah Grace Patrick, Carroll County, Georgia, 2025. In February 2025, a home on Tyus Road near Carrollton, Georgia became the scene of a tragedy. Kristen Brock, 41, and her husband James, 45, were found shot to death in their bed. James relied on a left ventricular assist device, a detail that underscored the couple's medical vulnerability. Their daughter, a young child, discovered the bodies the next morning after Sarah Grace Patrick, then 17, had called 911. Investigators reported no sign of forced entry and noted a door found ajar. In the weeks after the deaths, Sarah used TikTok to post grief-stricken videos, reached out to true crime creators, and publicly appealed for coverage of what she described as an unsolved tragedy. Meanwhile, detectives followed a different trail: forensic analyses, digital records, and other evidence that, according to prosecutors, increasingly implicated Sarah in the killings. In July 2025, Sarah Grace Patrick was arrested and charged as an adult with multiple counts: malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. Prosecutors told the court they had compiled substantial evidence that pointed to her guilt. At bond hearings, the judge denied release, citing flight risk and noting roughly $100,000 in media contract money signed by family members that might facilitate escape. Some relatives, including her maternal grandparents, publicly asserted their belief in her innocence. Sarah pleaded not guilty. As of late 2025, she remained held without bond, and her trial, originally slated for early 2026, was postponed to August 2026 pending a forensic neuropsychological evaluation requested by the defense. Unlike the other two cases covered here, this one has not yet reached trial. Charges are allegations, and she is presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. Bellevue, Medicine Hat, and Carroll County, three different tragedies that reveal how adolescent relationships, adult influence, and the reach of modern technology can factor into the most serious crimes. They also highlight the wide range of legal outcomes: life without parole in Idaho, capped youth sentences in Canada, and an ongoing prosecution influenced by social media in Georgia. Each story raises hard questions about culpability, the adequacy of legal responses to juvenile offenders, and how we interpret evidence and narrative. If you plan to publish this episode, keep the factual timeline and legal status clear for viewers, avoid sensational language about minors, and cite dates and court results so your audience can verify the record. For more real crime content, don't forget to like and subscribe to Zitty Shadow.